So here's the craziest phone call I ever had in the help desk. I got a call from some grandpa who somehow or another he clicked on something in an email, probably one of his grandkids sent him, and it took him to this like flash animated website that had a picture of Santa Claus sitting on a chimney with his pants down, pooping down the chimney. And so this guy calls me, and as soon as I pick up the phone, he's screaming at me, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Why is Santa taking a shit down a chimney on my screen?" And I'm like, "Sir, I don't know." Welcome to Gigacast episode 18 for special edition Monday, July 16th. Holy crap, 2018. I am Britton Johnson, and with me as always is my good friend.
I'm Tony Reeves, broadcasting from my home lab.
Welcome, everybody. So, we were going to do this yesterday, and then all of a sudden Tim's like, I can't do it. And then we decided to try it today. So we're going to introduce Tim now because he's already laughing. So Tim Davis, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm a senior systems engineer in the networking and security business unit at VMware.
Welcome to the
Davis.
Gigacast, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Sorry about yesterday.
That's
Family
right.
stuff happens, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just par for the course, you know. So, Tony, what you been up to lately?
I just got back from Indie VMUG UserCon last week. Had a blast.
Yeah, I wanted to go, but like I'm working like 12 different jobs right now, same as always, and it's I just couldn't get away. So, but
Well, we missed you, but we had a good time. We had a lot of good speakers.
and you got me socks, right?
I did get you Indie VMUG socks.
Yes.
I still have to get you your Veeam shirt from VeeamON as well. But
We'll hook
we
up
had a
soon.
good time. Had a lot of good speakers. I appreciate Ken Nalbone and everybody getting me out there. I did a quick talk on vSAN, filled in for somebody. A friend of mine that on Wisconsin VMUG couldn't make it, so I filled in there and had an awesome tour of Indianapolis Motor Speedway with Neil Segurt and Frank Denneman. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list of places to go.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go there, and then they said in the group chat, they're like, yeah, we're heading out. And I'm like, I'm totally there.
Cool.
Wait for 'em.
They had like an Indie VMUG event there recently. I saw
They
something
did. I
about.
believe that was May or June. Yeah.
Yeah, I was tempted to try to go to that too, but you know, Indie's just one of those things that it's close enough, but it's also far enough away from us.
I would highly recommend it. They put on a good show. This is my second year going down there and speaking, so good time.
Tim, are you an auto guy? Do you like cars?
I do, but I'm also kind of auto-retarded. I'm by no means an expert or anything like that.
All right. No. If I recall correctly from a tweet you sent, you drive an Audi, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have an A6, and I love it.
Oh,
It's fantastic.
I had two A4s, like a 98 and a 99, like a couple of years apart, and they were
And you
just,
had a wagon too, didn't you?
no, that's when I moved into the VWs.
Sot wagon.
Yeah, but no, I really like the Germans.
They make a good car,
It's just good, yeah. Cool. All right.
except for BMWs.
Hey.
Sorry, Sean.
Hey. Hey. I drive Beamer as well.
That was my last car before I bought the Ford.
Well, someday you'll grow up and get a big boy car, Tony, and you can get yourself an Audi too.
Nice try. I'm not giving up the Beamer. I love it. I think Sean will back me up there.
Of course he would.
Yeah, so Tony tried to reach out to Mr. Sean Odell tonight to see if he could join us as well, but he could not. So
Yeah, moving
Yeah.
to a house is rough.
Yeah, he's currently living like a hobo. Yeah, he had some weird transition period coming out of one and into another, and he's worked all week to get the new one ready, and he's been putting in a lot of time. So he needs some private time to finish that kind of stuff and chill out a little bit.
That's all right. You
but
were
he
the
did
original
express
only,
that he does want to come on at some point.
You were the only original guest we had slated, so
Yeah, but then you realize for half a second that I'm not enough, and maybe you want Sean too.
Wow, not at all how it was put, but
I'm just saying the facts are the facts, man.
I just did it again, Tony. I forgot to start the video recording.
Serious, dude. Seriously, slack.
You got to remind me of these things.
I'm gonna start holding up a sign. Are you recording?
Yes, do that. So Tim, you, I've met you when you were at the Wisconsin VMware UserCon.
Yeah.
For the first time. I think we kind of sort of ran by each other a couple times at VMworld, but never really connected.
Sure we did.
Never really connected, but give me and anybody else out there in the world who doesn't know who you are a 5-minute synopsis of who you are and how you got to where you are today.
All right, a 5-minute synopsis. That's
1 minute.
It's going to be a long time.
1 minute if you can do it in that, but
All right, so
hit the highlights.
So right now, I'm a senior SE in the networking and security business unit. I'm an NSX guy. I love it. It's fantastic. Before that, I worked for Dell Services on one of the largest contracts there at the time, and I was a vSphere and VDI architect. I have always been a VMware guy. Okay. Since the second I used VMware Server, I think it was 4.0 installed on an Ubuntu laptop, I was set. I had to have it. I always wanted to be a part of it.
Cool.
Somehow I ended up doing networking and security. Here I am. But then on August 6th here, in just a couple short weeks, I'm going to become a technical cloud specialist in the VMware Cloud Services business unit. So really exciting stuff.
We'll get more into that because I don't know what that means.
Awesome. So, it took me a few weeks to figure it out while I was going through the process in my head of, is this something that I'd be interested in doing? Once I figured everything out, it is fascinating. We are doing some really cool stuff.
All right. So when, before you got to Dell Services, what did you do before that?
A long string of systems administration jobs, a private financial company here in Dallas. Before that, I was a server build technician with SoftLayer. I got there by means of the merger with the Planet. I was a data center ops tech with the Planet. And then before that, I did a few years of, phone tech support.
Oh, yeah. Everybody seems to have to pay their dues in that.
I think everybody should. Anybody in IT that skips the phone stuff, it just hasn't earned it. Because if you're not beaten down every day from 8 to 5, answering phone call after phone call, asking somebody if they've rebooted their computer, running a script and realizing that they're lying to you and then rebooting it for them, you just got to go through it.
Yeah.
You learn so much, but you got to go through it.
It's a true trial by fire, and it just, I did it for way longer than I wanted to.
It was some of the longest 3 years of my life, but again, I learned a lot, not just about, IT and stuff like that and how backend systems worked, but about how to talk to people.
That's
how
it.
To interact with people.
That is
customer service, soft skills. Yeah.
100%. I would not be in the customer facing field role that I am today without that 3 years.
And one of the first jobs I had was internet support for home users. Mm-hmm. And you mean
no. I did internal company support. I would kill myself if it was end users. No.
Yeah. This was dial-up days too, man. So
that's rough.
So we're doing modem string, dial commands, and all this kind of fun stuff. So
and then he got me a job there because he hates me.
Yeah, well,
nice. Okay, so you guys go way back.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah, no, I think I go back 25 years.
Yeah, it's been a long,
wow, man.
It's been a long time.
In all fairness, though, I made it interesting. So I supported a series of power companies in Missouri and Illinois, big name out there. And we supported everything from the linemen in the trucks all the way up through their nuclear power plant. And there would be times when I'm just sitting there working on somebody's computer, and this is some guy that's been doing nuclear engineering or whatever it was for a long time. Dude doesn't know anything about a computer. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit there and do this, and you tell me some interesting stuff about nuclear power.
Nice.
And just some of the story from some of these guys, like the linemen in the trucks who were just told at one point, hey, you have a laptop now? This is how you're doing orders. The stories that they have about their jobs before computers and all that's just fascinating.
Well, the linemen in general, I mean, that's got to be one of the hardest, most thankless jobs.
Oh, dude, they put their work in, and they get beaten down, and nobody cares. Yeah. They only care about them when the power's out.
Yeah, I mean, and the guys up here in Wisconsin, I mean, they have to go out when it's like 40 below.
Oh yeah, that's the only time that anybody really needs them is when it ices over and everything shuts down.
They're like, a friend that was a lineman, and it was brutal stories he would tell.
Yeah.
Well, like I saw this. There was a guy. This was like, if you remember during the polar vortex a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
When we had like these 60 below days. I mean, they interviewed a couple of different guys who were power linemen, and the guy's just like, yeah, once you get up in the bucket, he's like, I keep one pair of gloves in my jacket under my armpits, and I switch them about every 15 minutes.
Wow, man.
He's like, that's the only way you can otherwise your fingers just completely freeze and you can't do anything.
Yeah, and they've got to have, dexterity. Yeah. God, that's ridiculous.
Shock themselves.
So, yeah, tip of the hat to all the power guys who keep us running on a daily basis.
We could not do our jobs without you, so thanks.
IT people like to say we run the world. No.
Although that's an interesting point, that at one point Tim Davis was the weak point in the U.S.'s power grid.
Hey, I won month after month after month of quality service awards and things like that. I was the strong link in the chain,
So here's the craziest phone call I ever had in the help desk. I got a call from some grandpa who somehow or another he clicked on something in an email, probably one of his grandkids sent him, and it took him to this like flash animated website that had a picture of Santa Claus sitting on a chimney with his pants down, pooping down the chimney. And so this guy calls me, and as soon as I pick up the phone, he's screaming at me, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Why is Santa taking a shit down a chimney on my screen?" And I'm like, sir, I don't know. But in the course of about 10 minutes, I made up something that made him feel better and talked him down. And like a week later, some supervisor listened to that recording, and they ended up playing it in training for people over and over and over.
That's awesome.
So my question to you would be, how many minutes did it take you to realize that it was not just some senile old man that was yelling nothingness, but he actually was seeing Santa shitting down a chimney?
Oh, I know there's no way that this guy's making this up. I mean,
it's too far out there.
Yeah, it's too far out there to be fake. And I'm like, what pains me is that I didn't have him send me the link.
Oh, that's just one of those things that you just save forever.
Yeah. That was the best call I ever had.
Nice.
But yeah. All right. So I prepared a couple of questions. I felt like maybe I didn't have to prepare as much for this because of Tony's probably just assumed that we were just going to talk about NSX and leave him in the dust. But
well, before the news, we assumed that you were going to talk about NSX only.
Yeah, in all fairness, we had this scheduled while some things were happening behind the scenes. So
that's fine.
Hey, we can talk NSX all day long. I am 150% in NSX SE until August 6th.
Is there stuff embargoed that you're not allowed to talk about with certain product lines?
I know way more than I care to know. There's tons of embargoed stuff. I have access to our roadmap. The problem with roadmaps is that first of all, there's revenue recognition issues and stuff like that. So what that means for a company that sells software is if I go to a customer and I say, hey, NSX does all sorts of cool stuff. Here's this feature that we're going to be doing 12 months from now. I cannot legally sell them software today on a feature that doesn't come out for 12 months. I can't do it. It's illegal.
Makes sense, yeah.
So we have those kind of issues. And there's also the fact that the roadmap changes constantly. I would say every day, but who knows, because I don't. There's features that come out that we get to learn about. We start having conversations with some customers behind the scenes about. It seems great, and then we find out 3 months later that product or that feature is just gone. It's out. They decided it's not worth it.
Well,
so
answer me this one question if you can.
Okay.
There's been a rumor that VMware is not that excited by the sales numbers for NSX for vSphere.
Okay.
And that basically they're shelving it more or less. They're not going to kill it completely. Mm-hmm. And all developmental resources are going into NSXT for the foreseeable future.
NSX for vSphere is our core product in the NSBU. We talk about it every day. I will go into a brand new customer tomorrow. I will talk about V. I will sell the V. When it comes down to any of our products and how far they're going to go and what their timeline looks like, don't discount any product until there's an official announcement saying that it's not going to be around anymore.
Okay.
Because until that day, there are developers for it. Stuff's happening. We're selling it. We believe in it and everything. Okay. So as of this very moment, there is absolutely no reason to not use V and have confidence in it.
All right. Well, I mean, I have plenty of confidence in it, and I realize they've sold enough of it that they're not going to just,
I wish we could sell more, but
well, yeah, and that's another personal gripe I have with the sales unit for the product team, I guess the product management team for NSX for vSphere, because I see on the small business side of things, I see so many other applications for it that I can't use it for because the licensing doesn't exist.
Like what?
So,
because I'd like to hear this.
Even just so here's the thing. Just this week, I'm putting together proposals for some clients on, and these are small businesses, right? They're like 25, 30 employees.
Sure.
They have one or two vSphere hosts. They're really small, but they're all really starting to get really good bandwidth now, and so it makes a lot more sense for them to start to move some stuff into some cloud host providers like OVH. So a place like that where I can get a physical server, for $100, $200 a month, and instead of them having to spend $5-10 grand on a server all at once, they can spread it out, and they can host all their stuff in a data center somewhere else.
Yeah, OpEx versus CapEx.
Yeah, and so that's starting to make really a lot more sense. Now, you buy the way OVH works, you buy a host, it's yours. You get the box.
Right.
And you can load on it in ESXi, whatever. 6.0, 6.5 is the two they have available right now. You can buy, you get a management IP on it, and then you can buy additional IPs to, host servers inside of it. So you can install a virtual firewall in the machine, which then gives you even more flexibility about what you can put under the hood inside of that one host. So naturally, this would be a great place for NSX, right?
Yep.
So
single host.
Yeah. Single host NSX. It's weird, but it's doable in certain ways.
Yes and no. So that right there is an architectural thing, because even NSXT that doesn't rely on vSphere, it's not tied to it. It still relies on vCenter in order to get objects from the configuration database.
But today it's not really single host. It's like they'll have three, but it's like vSphere Essentials Plus or Essentials. I mean, it's 3 hosts.
Does it have a vCenter server?
Yes.
Technically, the licensing should work as long as you have a vCenter. You have VDS installed on each one of the hosts or whatever you do, because if we require, that.
Yep. I have it working today in the lab.
It should work just fine. Is there a EULA thing against that? Because I don't see in our...
What I'm running into is it's a cost thing. So even if I were to sell the customer NSX standard doesn't come with VPN.
True.
So that immediately cripples what you can do with it. So basically makes it useless for this use case.
Well, and if you want to do security, then you need advanced, at least for microseg anyways.
Yeah. But I'm just even talking about just purely from a connectivity standpoint of, being able to hook the host up on an IPsec tunnel, from the cloud host to the on-site host.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, have some management connections inside wrapped inside a VPN tunnel. Right. Which I can't do
that makes sense.
On NSX standard. For NSX, we can get NSX Pro now, but that's $39.95 plus support for a year. And now I can go to, I'm going to say a bad word, Fortinet.
Hey, they're a perfect partner with ours. We love Fortinet.
And I can buy from them a virtual Fortinet VM that is about the same spec size as an NSX Edge Gateway, the medium one. And it can do everything the Edge Gateway does and then some. And it's $1,600 out the door. Yeah,
that makes sense. So that's an interesting use case that you put together there, and it kind of reminds me of like the way that I would in my head get around that is doing like NSX for Robo, which is done as a per VM pricing instead of that. But that's an interesting use case that it's honestly never been proposed to me. And it's interesting enough that I'm going to put that information together and send it to the SE and PM threads.
That would be helpful.
See what they would have to say about that, because I'm interested in what the answer to that is now.
Because to me, it's like I have always seen it this way, Tim. You have vSphere Essentials for small businesses who have a few hosts that they want to manage with vCenter. Why isn't there? And the restriction with that is you get 6 CPUs. 6 CPUs, you're done. 3 hosts.
Yeah, either 6 single sockets or 3 dual sockets, what have you.
Yeah, it's three hosts is basically the rule. Why isn't there an NSX Essentials that has basically almost all of the feature set of Enterprise Plus, but you're limited to using it in this small little cluster?
I love the idea. I absolutely do, and it makes sense. And it's one of those things where most people, when they think about selling NSX, they think about really large customers and stuff like that. Your eBay, PayPal's, and your Nikes and stuff like that. But honestly, our commercial business, like the small to medium shop guys, they've got steady customers, like constantly doing what that have your 5 and 10 host clusters and stuff like that. So why not go a step lower than that and have something that matches up with the essentials? I agree entirely.
Yeah, and that's been my biggest gripe with most of VMware stuff. Is you have like this little teeny tiny, I think Aaron Bewley said something about being a cocaine dealer. You have something,
of course he did.
You have something to give just the taste.
First one's free, man.
Yeah.
First one's free.
And it's just like as an independent consultant who deals with a lot of small businesses, this is my bag, and I could sell this stuff all day.
We're here to listen to customers. For us, most of our customers, like a large portion of those, come through partners like you.
Yeah.
So please send your feedback. We'll send it to PMs. I guarantee you are not the only independent consultant that wants to sell NSX to Essentials customers. I guarantee it. If we can get enough of those together, then they'll do something about it. That's how product management works. You answer the questions of everybody based on what makes sense to the business.
My first install with NSX was at my former employer, and their primary cluster was a 4-host cluster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were an enterprise licensed customer, but 4 hosts. And when we showed them the initial marketing stuff for NSX when it came out, because we were looking for a microsig solution for the business. You know, the response from the people in the room was just like, why wouldn't we do this?
You'd be stupid not to.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so we're just like, okay, that was really easy to sell.
Nice.
So, and like, you know, and at the time, like, this was when, like, you as a customer couldn't get a physical copy of NSX and do it yourself. I had to go beg, borrow, and not quite steal to get a copy of it so that I could do the pre-OC myself and prove to them that it would do what, you know, it said it would do. And like, and you know, I mean, talking with our account executive at the time, I'm like, listen, guy, we're not, if we have to pay VMware to prove that it's going to work, we're not going to buy it.
Yeah.
So
we run into that a lot with the enterprise customers, where it's like, look, you know, we'll do this for you. Do you want services and stuff like that? And the general feeling of IT departments is, why are we paying this guy if you want us to pay you? Or why would we pay you when we're paying this guy to do it? And it's difficult sometimes, because NSX is one of those products where if you don't do it right, you're going to hate it. It's not going to work the way that you expected it to. So we like to help to make sure that you're successful.
Yep.
But at the same token, as a guy that used to do, you know, systems engineering and stuff like that, I 100% get it. Why would they pay me if, you know, I have to bring them in? That's I understand entirely, but you know, that's just how the game works.
And then, well, those, you know, and at the time, they had like, this was just coming out of the acquisition phase from Nicira.
Yeah.
So this was like NSX 6.1, I think, is what I was first installing.
Good old days.
Yeah. And there was like pieces of the software that just still plain didn't work yet.
Well, it was funny on 6.1, when you used to open up the console of the NSX manager, the console still said vCloud Networking and Security Manager, and it did all the way up until almost 6.2.
Yeah. I noticed that for a while when you go and type in, like, it still says VCNS.
I actually use that to illustrate a point a lot with customers. There's a misconception that when we bought Nicira, we just slapped a label on their product and shipped it out, and that was it. In all fairness, we did for like 6 months or whatever it is, NSX MH, multi-hypervisor. Yeah. That was just a rebranded version of the NPV product that they had. But really, the Nicira acquisition, what we got from them is the control plane. That was kind of the secret sauce that we got. When you take that and you mix that together with vCloud Networking and Security plus a few other things, that's what made NSX. So it was a little bit of what VMware had been doing for a long time, mixed with stuff that Nicira got right from the start. One of the reasons that vCloud Networking and Security really didn't take off from the beginning, in order to do the overlay VXLANs, it required multicast on the underlay. For customers that didn't have that configured, that was a little cumbersome. They didn't want to do it. As soon as we were able to do overlay networking in unicast mode, it seemed to take off like wildfire.
Yeah, I mean, every piece of the installation, like I've talked about this before, where I've say, like, if you haven't installed NSX between 5 and 10 times, you don't really know how to install it properly.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
and it's like, you can read all the documentation, you can go through the class, you can do through all this stuff, but until you've literally blown it up 5 or 10 times, you're just scratching the surface of getting it put in properly.
So that's what I'm doing wrong.
Post rack over here filled with hardware, and I've installed NSX on this thing more times than I can count on 50 hands. Every time a new version comes out, I don't just upgrade the one I have. I blow the whole thing away and start over.
So I just moved the lab, and I'm like 60-40 cloud and on-prem in my lab. And
nice.
Right now I'm more cloud than I am on-prem. And in that process, I just moved everything to 6.7 with NSX 6.4.1. And this by far was the easiest installation I've ever done with it. It's just, everything just worked out of the box. I'm like,
6.4 has changed so much. Like, anybody that's been around since like these, 6.1, 6.2 days and stuff like that, 6.4 is just ridiculously different.
Yeah.
All of the update helpers, the installation managers and stuff like that. The HTML5 interfaces that we have built into the old Flash client.
Can't do everything.
Man, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Getting there, close.
HTML5 is one of the highest priorities that I've seen internally. Everybody knows that Flash is dead. In all fairness, though, the Flash web client got so much better over the years. Like the 6.5 web client was totally usable. Even the 6.0 update 3 was completely usable. But HTML5 is the way to go, and everybody's working as hard as they can to get it up to speed.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with how this migration went, because I didn't want to just completely destroy everything and start over. So I kind of like destroyed one host, stood a bunch of brand new stuff up on it, and then just migrated hosts in and reinstalled everything from that level.
Have you installed NSXT yet?
I tried.
Did you read the installation guide?
No.
We have a step-by-step guide for that.
I did get the NSXT manager deployed once. And it's different enough that I feel like I'm starting over. And
well, you are. So that's one of the problems with it, is that like when I first went to NSXT boot camp, I was talking to Marcos Hernandez, who is one of our principal systems engineers. He's one of the smartest dudes I've ever heard talk. And he was like, okay, take everything that you know about NSXV and just leave it at home. Just don't bring it with you. Don't try to equate anything together. Just let it go.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things with T, is that it was built, from the ground up as a different kind of platform. It's built natively multi-hypervisor. Nowadays, it's built natively multi-cloud. The architecture is natively multi-tenant. It is a fantastic product, but if you've done nothing but NSXV, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve to get there. But man, that's another one of those things that they are working diligently on, making sure that anybody that wants to go to T for any use cases, because there are different sets of use cases for each one, that we have a good way of getting them there.
So let me ask you a question here from a complete NSX noob. So I was actually speaking with somebody, it might have been actually at NDB Mug, about NSX and how I haven't had an opportunity to really learn it or delve into it like Britton has. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a black art to me yet. And they pretty much flat out said, at this point, I wouldn't even bother learning V. Going forward, if you haven't really delved into V, it's like,
that's not true.
You should probably just focus on T, is what I was told.
Well, I would say that's not true. Because, like I said, T or V is still fantastic. They're still doing things with it. It's still got so many different use cases. The two products don't have feature parity. There's some things that V does that T doesn't. There's some things that T does that V doesn't. But the thing is that even though a lot of the architecture is different, even though like some of the protocols and stuff are different, and the way that they do things is different, it's still kind of sort of the same. Once you learn microsegmentation and you understand what the concept is, it's the same. Once you understand overlay networking and how management and control planes and data planes work together, if you're learning that with V, you absolutely can translate it to T. Or if you're learning it in T, you can translate that to V. It's just one of those things where if you don't know anything about it, it doesn't matter which direction you start. Once you get up to a certain place, you'll be able to easily convert over.
Okay. And
this is coming from me where, like I said, I was a vSphere guy. I wasn't a networking guy. Most of my colleagues in the NSBU spent, 10, 20 years at Cisco or, Brocade or one of those things.
Yeah.
Me coming as a vSphere guy, I knew enough networking to get by as a engineer and architect at Dell. That's about it. I got myself up to speed networking by learning NSX.
And that's kind of the spot that I'm at. I'm a network administrator, ironically, but I can configure.
Using that term loosely.
Yeah, my job is more system administration, vSphere than anything else. So.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you probably understand, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 7, and stuff like that. Even if you don't understand exactly what those terms mean, you probably understand the base concepts. Once you start learning NSX, you actually start seeing how that fits together. And the cool thing is that if you do the like NSXV install, configure, manage course, to me, that course seems like it was geared towards a vSphere administrator who's trying to learn networking.
Oh, cool.
Now, they have another version of that course. I think it's called the Install, Configure, Manage for Inner Networking Professionals. That was the version that I believe they used camp. But the standard ICM for NSX, to me, as a vSphere guy, seemed like it was aimed directly at me. They start to break down some of the rudimentary networking concepts and what they mean. And it's one of those things where there's books that are, 5 inches thick on how BGP works, but NSX makes BGP so simple that you don't have to know that much. You don't. You have to understand that it's, dynamic networking and how peering and stuff generally works. But when it comes down to the really, really deep stuff, you don't need that for NSX. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, I was originally going to try to, my renewal for VCP is due, and I was originally going to try to move over and do the double dipping and get NV and then renew my DCV. And I ended up not quite having enough time to delve into that like I wanted to. And not being a networking guy, I just ended up renewing.
So everything that I just said about NSX makes networking easy and stuff like that. Yeah. The VCP NV is one of the hardest exams I've ever done. It's very fair, but it's extremely tough, especially if you don't come from the networking background.
Yeah.
So it is definitely difficult, and anybody that gets it deserves it. Unless you use dumps and then you suck, but it is the hardest VCP in my mind, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I Tim, I was a lot like you, where I'm a straight sysadmin vSphere guy who got really excited by NSX and decided, hey, this is the next best thing since ESXi.
It's fascinating.
And then I'm just like, and then I go into the ICM class, and they're talking about all this networking stuff, and they're doing packet walks, and I mean, I had, I forget his name now, the vCenter or the training guy who wears a kilt at VMworld.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of the name.
I think his name is Rob, I want to say.
I'm blanking out.
Yeah.
I can see his face.
But he does all the NSX training.
Sorry, I forgot your name. I apologize.
But he's well known as the NSX training guy who wears a kilt.
Yeah. It's going to bother me. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat.
I'm going to see if I can see how good my Google foo is.
But I had him and another guy doing my class, and both of those guys just broke everything down. And it was really nice. And they didn't even really get into BGP and all this kind of crazy dynamic routing stuff. I mean, I didn't touch BGP in NSX until I went to Boston this year for the NSX Live Fire class.
Yes.
And
I hear that's a great one. I haven't gotten to sit one of those.
It was pretty good.
I hear it's awesome.
I mean, and it's just, you get with these guys Luca Camardo was the guy who was in one of the trainers, and he's just one of the newly minted VCDX NVs.
Yep.
And super crazy smart guy, and he's just just do this, here, it's done. I'm just like, okay, slow it down just a half a step.
Click, click, click.
Yeah.
That is the internal mantra in the NSBU, and I actually have a T-shirt that says click, 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 run NSX. Because that's how NSX works. You don't have to do a bunch of crazy commands or anything like that. You just click and click and it works.
As part of the class, I had to configure BGP routing to some Cisco virtual router somewhere. Yeah. And we're going through this whole configuration of BGP, and I'm just like, for a dynamic routing protocol, it requires an awful lot of static configuration. So, it seems to me like OSPF is really the way to go here. And they're like, no, BGP.
What the hell is an S number? What the hell is it asking for?
Yeah.
What's an autonomous system? It's just, when it was explained to me, it was one of those things, and at one point I felt super dumb because I was sitting in our SE onboarding class, and it was me and a CCIE sitting next to me. And we were going through all this, and in the very beginning of the class, the guy that was training, and I love the guy, was just like, if you are not a networking guy, you are not going to do well. And I'm like, challenge accepted. I like this. So we go through the first week, which was essentially the VCP training kind of stuff. And I go home that week and I get the VCP, and then we go back the next week and we basically do the VCIX level stuff. And I'm sitting there talking to the CCIE next to me, and I'm asking him, probably to him, what seems like the most retarded questions about, BGP and OSPF and routing and stuff like this. And I'm sure at some point in time he was talking to the other CCIEs, because there were 5 of them in the room during our onboarding training class.
Yeah.
And they were all just like, what is this guy doing here? But my challenge to myself was, look, I'm going to go to the first week. I'm going to come back at the VCP. I'm going to go to the second week, and I'm going to get the VCIX. And it took me 2 tries, but I passed that VCIX, like, what was it, 8 days after the training class?
It took me 3.
Did it? Dude, did you do the old version or the new version?
The old one.
Okay, so did I.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself to go take the new VCAP in 6NV, but I don't have to, because I inherited VCIX 6 like you did as well.
I went for it.
But the old test, it was so tough, but it was also fair. It was very fair. And it was one of those things where he said, you're not going to do well in networking. And I was asking stupid networking questions, but I made it work, because NSX makes networking easy.
Yeah. Well, like, I ran into, when I was studying for the VCIX, there's a guy in the Netherlands named Iwan Hugendorn.
Yep.
VMware employee.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into him at VMworld 2016 where I passed it. And I like talked to him like 10 minutes before I ran into the test center to take the test. Iwan, you've got to help me.
Nice.
He's like, oh, here, just
what is
This.
BGP?
Yeah. He's like giving me his like, he's got like this cheat sheet on his phone of like all these notes. The guy is like ridiculously good at keeping notes.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's got like just everything, like for every possible scenario, like all on his phone. I'm like, man, that's amazing. And then he's like, yeah, I've got 6 CCIEs, and it took me 3 times to pass the exam. So I'm like, okay, well, this guy has 6 CCIEs, and he couldn't pass the VCIX and want the first try either. I don't feel so bad.
It's just one of those things where if you don't get one of those steps, at least on the old exam, like since that's retired, we can kind of talk about it now. So at one of the earlier stages, you had to peer BGP upstream. And if you don't get BGP working, it screws like 3 other steps in the lab. And the first time, everything seemed correct. I just could not get the connection between that Viata router and the ESG to peer. It just wouldn't happen. And I walked out of there thinking that I should have had it, but because of that, it didn't. I figured out whatever little problem it was, and the next time I fixed it. And I'll tell you what it was. It was that stupid protocol IP address for the DLR downstream. And I was like, technically, shouldn't you be peering it with the uplink of the DLR? Well, no, because that uplink exists on every host. You have to use the freaking protocol address on that damn control VM, and that's what screwed me.
And it's like I had the big issue I had is I could never get the 3-tier app working in the exam.
Yeah.
And like when I finally got that one working, I got it working on all but one host.
Nice.
And I'm like, why won't this one host connect? And for the life of me, I couldn't get it to work. And I talked to Iwan. I ended up passing. I'm like, who cares? So I talked to Iwan, but I ran into Iwan again. I talked to him like, he's like, oh yeah, I think there was a bug in the exam or whatever. And then I talked to one other guy, and he's like, no, there actually wasn't a bug in the exam. He's like, did you check the MTU setting on the NIC on that host? I'm like,
oh, mismatch.
Like they broke the MTU on the NIC. Why would I check that?
Yeah. You wouldn't. That's the problem.
Exactly.
And that's just one of those things where it's the exams are tough, but they're fair because it's an MTU mismatch, and like, you should have known that.
That should have been a stupid easy fix.
Hindsight's 20/20, man.
Yeah. I'm just like, But
I'm really looking forward to the NV design exam. I'm on the list to help write that whenever they decide it's time.
cool. So talk to us, Tim, about this cloud team thing. Like, is this AWS or is this something else?
It's absolutely AWS.
Okay.
And it's absolutely Azure, and it's absolutely Google Cloud.
Okay, but is it VMware on AWS or just standard AWS?
It is not. Okay, so VMware Cloud Services. These are the software as a service offerings that we have regarding public clouds. Now, VMware Cloud on AWS absolutely is software as a service. That's within a cloud services portfolio, but that won't be what I'm specifically talking to customers about. We have a series of SaaS offerings, one of the most notable being Network Insight as a service. We also have something called Discovery that will go out to public clouds, and it will pull in all of your information, show you like what kind of workloads you have, how big they are and stuff like that. There's something called Cost Insight. You can kind of compare this to vRealize Business, where it'll actually go out to the public clouds and start to do cost analysis. How much is this workload costing you in the cloud and stuff like that?
Cool.
All of these tools that are specifically for native cloud. So your on-prem private cloud stuff, that's not going to be our customer base. It's going to be the app dev teams that are actually going out and consuming raw Amazon or raw Azure or Google Cloud.
Okay. So it's more all the native cloud platforms of AWS and Azure.
Yes. Absolutely right. It's one of those things where VMware is going out and realizing that not all customers are VMware on-prem.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, as an enterprise SE for NSX right now, if we talk to the core account executives, if they have a customer that's 90% in, Azure or AWS and 10% VMware on-prem, they're not going to be a super huge profitable customer because they're sending most of their money to Google. Well, what if we told you that you've already got a contract with VMware and everything? We can give you the tools to go out and make sure that you're not only over consuming, but you're placing the workloads in the right spot. You can monitor and analyze and do everything that you need to do, all the power of VMware software as a service.
So what is the primary play in this? Is it just all of these giant services that you can lay on top of, or is it, is there really kind of a main service offering that comes through this?
No, we just have a series of different services, and you pick and choose not only which service you want for value, but how much of it you want to use. Do you want to tack on a couple of extra services? Like, for instance, we've got customers right now that their primary data center is on-prem with VMware, but they've had developers that have been going out to Amazon for the past couple of years and just using their company credit card to, buy services. IT has absolutely no idea how much is out there, what it's costing them, if even being in the public cloud is the right spot for that workload. We have the services to be able to go out there and not only tell them exactly how much of it they have, but roughly what it's costing them, and if maybe moving it from AWS to Azure would be more cost effective, or certain workloads moving it back on-prem would be more cost effective, and things like that.
So I remember I think it was VMworld 2016 where they were talking more about, giving customers the ability to more or less vMotion workloads from like Azure to AWS or vice versa.
So that's one of those things where anybody that knows anything about systems understands the difference in platforms.
Yeah.
Like, on-prem we have, VMX files. In Amazon we have AMI files and things like that. They're simply different platforms. So you can't quote unquote vMotion a VM from on-prem to Azure to AWS with just the click of a button. Now, in all fairness, we actually made an acquisition recently of a company that's going to pretty much help us get to that point where we can do that. But as of right now, replatforming exists. You have to be able to get from one to the other. But we can at least right now tell you which one of these makes the most sense for you? Is one of them more cost effective for certain workloads? Are there certain workloads that you could flat out spin down because you're not utilizing them properly? Or do you even need more resources on another box? Just lots of things to make sure that if you are going out to utilize public clouds, because we do know that customers are going out there and using it, and they're using it quite a bit, take your old friend VMware with you, and we'll help you do that properly.
Don't take him out back behind the shed and shoot him.
This old dog's got some new tricks, and it's not just the public clouds and the new software that really makes me interested in this. It is a huge paradigm shift for VMware as a company. Mm-hmm. In the past, we're a perpetual software company. You buy a license and you own that license. As long as you're paying S&S, everything's great. Mm-hmm. With this, we're not going on a buy all this licensing at once model. This is you can use as little, or you can take in as little or as much as you want. Just pay us as you consume it. So it's really a huge shift in how VMware is doing business as a whole.
Well, I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more from you on these things in the future, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, of course. There is so many cool new things that are coming out here. Like VMware Kubernetes Engine, VKE, just released here. It's Kubernetes as a service in public cloud. It is fascinating. And if you haven't gone out there and read some of the intro blogs and stuff on that, you should check it out, because that's really one of the coolest things I've seen in a while.
Yeah, the whole Kubernetes and containers and all that stuff, it's just, I just don't have the time.
It's smoke and mirrors, man. Yeah. It's smoke and mirrors.
I listened, like this was like a year or 2 years ago, I listened to an episode of the Datanauts podcast where they talked about this.
Yeah.
And after 45 minutes, I was just like, I have no idea what they just said.
They've been talking for 45 minutes and I had a problem with containers for a good while. As a VM admin, I see containers as Linux admins and devs just going out and trying to circumvent the process. Yeah. Rather than asking for all of the VMs they actually needed, they just asked for one big ass VM and go and virtualize it another layer down. And the fact that there was no monitoring or tools or anything that I could use for visibility and management, it made me angry. But you see how cloud native architectures and microservices and everything are being developed these days. And it's extremely smart for a lot of apps. Maybe not all of them, but
it's like
for a lot of apps. Yeah, it's a smart technology, and I think it's going to go a long way. And I keep hearing are containers going to take over? Is VMware done because of Docker and Kubernetes? And no. You have to run those somewhere. Yeah. And it makes the most sense to run them on virtual machines.
Well, this is like the dumb arguments that happen about cars, right? Everybody's always saying like, oh, electric cars are the future. Oh, diesel cars are the future.
Cars.
Like, yeah.
Flying
cars are the future. Everything's the future. It's like, no. I mean, the answer is yes to all.
Yeah.
I mean, then that's really that's
we're
the
solution. In IT. The answer is it depends.
Yeah.
Always.
Always. And
it's always it depends.
And it's and what the depending point is can be a person sometimes, and sometimes it can be an actual technical limitation.
Man, it's when it's the person though, and you want to like bash your head against the wall. This is the way we've always done it. Is how businesses get crippled.
Yeah, I had.
It's really unfortunate seeing customers that are hindered by people.
Yeah, I had one of those moments with a client this last week, and trying to do something for a security enhancement, and they're just like, I have my own way, I'm going to do it my way. And I'm like, all right.
Enjoy failure. Yeah. Man, people and process, and that's one of the things that I realized that, coming up as a, vSphere guy and all, like as a sysadmin, I was all about the tools. The tools are cool. The toys are awesome. And now coming into where I have to like help build solutions and solve problems, it's just one of those things where it's like, man, you can throw tools at a problem all day, but if the people and process don't change with it, the tool's just either not going to be as successful as it could be, or it's just flat out not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Like we see customers that are going through entire huge shifts in org charts, how they do processes, how they do everything to match, and the tooling is just helping them get there. It's not like they're changing everything because of the tool. Tool's just helping.
All right. So, Tim, this is a question I wrote earlier yesterday, and it seemed cool at the time. Maybe it's kind of stupid now.
I like where this is going.
But is it a prerequisite in Texas that you must be a grill master?
No, and it's offensive that you say grill master. It's pit master.
Perfect.
And there's lots of people in Texas that are god awful at cooking. But man, it's a passion of mine. God, I love cooking, and I love grilling and barbecuing, which are two different things. If you're from the Northeast and you say, "Hey, we're going to barbecue," what are you doing? Burgers and dogs? I'm gonna smack you. Grilling is not barbecue. Oh.
Yeah. I just realized I just screwed that up myself. Grill master. What the fuck?
Pit master, man. I am the pit master of my own backyard.
Nice.
So what do you use?
So I have a char griller Acorn smoker, which is kind of like a knockoff Big Green Egg.
Okay.
I love that thing. It's awesome. I also have this tiny little electric smoker, thanks to Al Rashid for pointing that out. He sent me a link one day, and QVC was selling these little things for like $60. And I was like, that's worth the gamble. I'm getting it.
All right.
And I swear to God, man, and you plug this thing in, you put some wood chips in there, and like 30 minutes later, the thing is smoking like crazy. It's fantastic. It's awesome. I love it.
Cool.
But then, of course, I also have a big 6-burner propane grill, because sometimes you just want to quickly light a fire with the push of a button and grill some chicken.
Mm-hmm. So when I was in Boston for the live fire class, I was fighting like a migraine the whole week.
Oh,
and so like every day after class, I would just go back to my room and just watch TV and pass out. And like at one point I woke up and there was this infomercial for those Traeger grills.
Oh, Traegers are awesome, man.
And I'm sitting there laying there watching. I'm like, I might actually have to buy one of these.
So, and obviously now I have to rep Meat Church because Matt's awesome.
Here we go.
And I talk about them on Twitter a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yes, you do.
Matt is a local IT guy. He's here in Dallas. He does IT for an NSX customer, actually.
Okay.
And his whole barbecue thing is just his side gig. He's
Cool.
awesome at it. And we had him out to do a V Brisket Texas last year, and had him talk. And somebody asked him, they're like, "All right, so you're sponsored by Big Green Egg and all this kind of stuff. What do you think of like electric smokers and pellet smokers and all that?" Because with the Traeger, you fill the thing up, you set the temperature, and it's just there. It goes, it does the work for you.
Yep.
And his answer was fantastic, because there's some people that say, if you don't go out and, tender it all night and put sticks in there and you do it, you're not doing it right. And his thing was like, okay, so you put meat in and you got good meat out. Yes. Okay. That's fine. It's all about the end result. It doesn't matter what the process is, which is why I don't feel bad that I have a temperature controller for my egg, so that I don't have to sit there and mess with the dampers over and over. I just turn the thing on, I set the temperature, and the fan blows. It's great.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the end result. He's like, look, if you're going to ruin a 14-pound brisket over pride, the problem is with you.
Yeah.
So, dude, Traeger grills, I recommend those. Those are great. I don't have one, but I would like one because they're easy. You just set it and it works. And they work really well, too.
Yeah, I was nearly convinced. I'm just like, man, maybe it's the drugs, but I was just like ready.
Dude, that Traeger Timberline, every time I see it, just looks better and better and better.
And the way if you've ever seen the infomercial, it's like these two buddies sitting in their backyard talking to each other about this stuff. and I'm just like, the way they sell it, I'm just like, man, these guys are good.
It satisfies a little bit of the IT geek in you too, right? Because it's got the Wi-Fi and the app control and.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, that's if you go for the main one, but
Yeah.
not everybody can.
Hey, what is it? The Traeger Pro 840, I think it is. That's just kind of the dumb set it and forget it one. Still great grills.
Yeah.
You guys heard of Yoder grills at all?
No.
I know the name.
Google it right now, Tim. You'll probably be drooling.
Hold on, what is it? Yoder?
Yeah. They make like some crazy competition stuff.
Yoder smokers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. World's most versatile smoker. I'll see about that.
Nice.
Oh, holy crap. Okay. Look at that.
Yeah, they're no joke.
Trailers, competition. Holy God.
There's actually a local dealer here. I think I sent you a picture of them several months ago. But they had super thick gauge steel on them. You know, they're going to last a long time from what I
Quick, I need to borrow $10,000 from somebody real quick.
Yeah, they're pricey.
Dude. Yeah, but this is fantastic. Look at this thing. The Frontiersman Competition Smoker.
Yeah.
Well, like,
that's pretty.
I listen to some of these, like, you know, how to run a business podcasts, and is it? Oh, okay, maybe it is the. There was some guy who bought a Big Green Egg, and there was something he didn't like about it, so he ended up starting his own grilling company to compete with them, and made basically like the better version of the Big Green Egg.
Is it the Kamado Joe?
I think it might be.
So the Kamado Joe is basically like a Big Green Egg, but it has better seals and it has better hinges, and it used to cost less until they doubled the price of it because people were paying for it.
Yeah. But within a few years, this guy was just like stealing all the Big Green Egg business, and I'm just like, is there really that much business in the grilling industry?
Dude, there really is. Like, competition barbecue is a huge deal. Like, it's just like NASCAR. So, like Matt from Me Church, he's sponsored by Yeti. He's sponsored by Traeger. He's sponsored by Big Green Egg. And I believe he has a couple of others. I mean, it's nuts, dude. Competition barbecue is a big deal, especially in the South.
Well, yeah, before Sam's Club went and closed a whole bunch of their stores, we used to have this annual barbecue competition that's sponsored by Sam's Club that would roll into town. And it was this huge event. I'm just like, oh, man, this is awesome. But now we don't have a club anymore.
Man, I live through Costco. That is the best place to get prime briskets for cheap. They're always good for it, too.
So, wait, do you have a go-to cut? Are you a brisket, butt, or shoulder guy?
So when it comes to beef brisket, if you're going to do brisket, if you have the time, always go full packer if you can.
Okay.
Look up the YouTube video if you're going to do it for the first time for, God dang it. I'm blanking on his name, and I'm going to sound like an idiot. Down in Austin, Aaron Franklin. Okay. I don't know why I was blanking on that. He has a video of how to trim a brisket. Mm-hmm. Do it that way. The man's brilliant. Get the full packer, trim it up correctly, smoke that.
Okay.
Pork is okay. I do like a pork shoulder from time to time. Not a huge fan of that. I like the beef. Ribs, chicken's my forte, or any poultry really. I can do bird real good.
So if that's your forte, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
I like it.
So I've just got a Weber grill.
Mm-hmm. A kettle?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got the Master Chef series, I think, with I can spread my baskets out, and then I got to, put water in the bottom of it, etc. And I got the iGrill for temp monitoring.
Perfect. That's what I got.
And got that. And it seems to be, I've tried to smoke several things over the years, and it seems to be, it takes for freaking ever.
It does.
Attempt to get up to the recommended safe temp. And I don't want to dry the chicken out.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much heat. And you don't have a kettle, right? So
no.
Maybe you're not the best person to ask.
Well, so the kettle and the Kamado are kind of sort of the same. Okay. Because it's it's a dome, so the heat kind of ends up convecting through. The thing with chicken, like, you have to hit 165. Like, you have to hit 165, otherwise you can't eat it. But the problem with that is you have to get it up there without drying out the meat, and you have to crisp the skin at the same time. Crisping the skin but not drying out the meat is the trick. And the answer to that for me is brine. Always brine your birds. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a 20-pound turkey or a 3-pound,
especially
chicken.
Turkeys.
Especially turkeys.
Spread it over or soak it in it or what for the brine?
Oh, dude, wet brine. Dunk that thing in there.
Just a good decent brine is basically a bucket of water, a whole bunch, way too much salt,
Way too much salt. A little bit of sugar.
Yeah, when you look at it, you're thinking that's too much salt. That's just enough salt.
Nice.
You're dumping
just like steaks.
Yeah.
If you're salting a steak, salt it to what you think it's going to be, and then triple it. That's how much salt you should put on a steak. And what that is that's essentially dry brining the steak. And yet another plug for Meat Church. So he has a brine called Bird Bath, which I did my own brine for the longest time. The Alton Brown recipe for turkeys, great brine. But then I tried Bird Bath, and I've been using that ever since.
Nice. I feel like I've just been assaulted.
You have. Hashtag tweet your meat.
Yeah. So did you start that, or did you steal that from somebody else?
I saw it at some point in time, and I started using it, and people started telling me that doesn't mean what you think it means. But when you go to the hashtag, it's nothing but barbecue. So yes, it in fact means what you think it means.
Nice. Awesome.
Have you ever heard of this guy who does a lot of stuff on PBS named Stephen Reichlin?
The name sounds familiar.
He's the Barbecue University guy, the Barbecue Bible.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he does these like private barbecue school events at high-end resorts, and I've always wanted to do this, where like you go to this thing, he teaches you how to do like 10 different cuts of meat, in a week.
Yeah.
And basically you start cooking in the morning, you go play golf all day, and you come back and you eat tons and tons of meat.
Oh, that's brilliant. I like that. So there's a place here locally called Premier Grilling that does barbecue and other cooking classes.
Yeah.
One of the guys that's a regular, his name is Kent Rathbun. He's actually an Iron Chef.
Okay.
He lives here locally and has some local restaurants. So you can go to this barbecue school and learn from Iron Chef. And it's relatively cheap. It's fantastic. If you've never done a cooking class before, just go do it. Even if it's at a local place, you should go try it out because it's awesome.
So I wanted to try to see, we should really start a campaign to get somebody like Stephen Reichlin or some high-end barbecue celebrity to do a session at VMworld.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That'd be cool.
So one of my sessions that was nixed was called, how to smoke a brisket the NSX way.
Nice.
And essentially what I was going to do is I was going to equate designing and implementing NSX to like trimming, smoking, and consuming a brisket.
I like it, yeah.
And it was awesome. And I kept getting, pinged internally from people who were apparently voting. They were like, dude, that's one of the most interesting sessions I've seen. I voted for it. And then I get the email that says it was denied. And I'm like, crap, I thought I had a winner this time. I really did.
That's just another reason why, Britton, we have to make it down to Dallas-Fort Worth V-Mug sometime and make a V-brisket.
Oh, dude. Absolutely.
That sounds awesome.
Well, one of these days we're going to start our national or international tour of V-Mugs.
Yes.
Hold on. When is it? We got so much time. So our V-Mug is always at the end of the year. And Brad Christian, when he was still in charge, always did that because he liked to wait until after VMworld, because then he could actually take all the sessions from VMworld and kind of do a mini VMworld at our user con.
Yep.
2018. October 2nd. Put it on your calendars, boys. Come on down. We'll be glad to have you.
I would love to, but that's not going to work for me. That's within 2 weeks of my wife's due date.
That's right.
Kids, man, come on.
I know.
All right, you get a pass this time.
And you're driving a Ferrari somewhere around there, too.
Yes, on October 8th.
Dude, nice.
Yes, that was my wife's and my son's Father's Day gift, is I get to drive a Ferrari 488 around a racetrack, Road America.
Dude, I'm jealous. That's awesome.
And if for some reason I think she can't make it, then I get to go with you, I think was the plan.
No, you're coming with me.
Oh, I am?
Yes. She bought you a pit pass. You're there unless you can't make it for whatever.
You just get to sit there and watch, though.
All right. Well, Tim, this has been a lot of fun. Tony, is there anything else you want to talk or chat or ask about?
Super quick. We didn't get a chance to talk about this at all during Wisconsin UserCon when you were up. Guitars. I know this is not Britain's forte, but we got to do a little bit of guitar talk.
Oh, dude, totally.
So walk us through a little bit of your collection. What do you like to play in terms of acoustic, electric, and just a little background?
All right. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
it's the
I'm gonna
virtual
walk in
tour.
there.
I like it.
'Cause I'm right here. Yeah. All right.
Another reason why we record video.
So there you go.
Nice.
That's a lot of guitars.
I have a bunch,
So what we didn't mention,
but the go ahead.
what we didn't mention is you're going to play us out.
Oh, I'm not doing that.
Just kidding.
So the one I play more often than not, the
Nice telly.
60s Telly issue reissue. My wife bought me one of my coolest ones, the Steph Carpenter 7.
Nice.
Love that. The first guitar I ever owned was my LTD B50 bass. The first electric guitar I ever owned was stolen from me when I was carjacked once.
Oh,
That's a fun story. And then a red SG.
G. Nice.
I have an acoustic, and I have a tiny little, I don't even know what brand this is, but it was pink, and it was at a pawn shop for like $60. And I bought it for my daughter for whenever she decides she wants to play.
It looks like a Jackson.
It looks exactly like a Jackson. It's got a full Floyd Rose on it.
Nice.
But it's a cheap garbage, and it was $60. It plays really, really well.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm sitting back now. That'll be something fun for anybody who watches the video.
Yeah.
Watch to the end.
I'm surprised how many people within our community here play an instrument, play guitar, drums, bass, whatever. I know Matt Heldstab and I have been trying to get together like a VMUG Battle of the Bands at VMworld for a couple of years now.
Hey, I was in with you guys, but that kind of fell apart.
Yeah, Matt's not able to make it, and it sounds like there is some interest in VMUG, so maybe we can get it going at some point.
Man, it's one of those things where, like, music is what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Tech is what I'm good at. Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Stone Sour did a talk at Oxford, and it's on YouTube that you can look up. It's one of the most brilliant things I've ever listened to. And he talks about doing what you are good at versus doing what you love. Some people chase their dream and you end up being like a starving artist or something like that. His passion is history. He wanted to be a history professor, but he's good at music and it pays the bills so that he can read books and do whatever he wants. Well, with tech, I mean, I like tech. It's fun, but tech is not what I love to do. But doing tech for a job lets me have a stack of guitars sitting there. So
yeah, there's a lot of times
that's definitely something I'm always down to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where if you have a bad day at work, just coming home and just playing a few chords and just letting a song come out of you, or just noodling around is just a good stress reliever.
It's awesome. Drums are good for that too. Love that.
Yes, I like your trap set there, your electronic.
I wasn't able to play for the longest time because I only owned an acoustic set, and living in a neighborhood like this, I couldn't play it. But then, man, that Alesis E-drum kit that I got, that thing is fantastic. I highly recommend it.
I've always loved drums, and I've been able to keep, a beat here and there, but sometimes it ends up, I just have that problem where I can't break the link between the foot and to get those
Getting the 2 feet and the 2 hands to play completely different things is a skill. And at the very beginning, when I very first started, I couldn't do it either. I ended up playing like the same thing on the hats, and that it just didn't work. Eventually, I finally was able to like break it open, and then once you kind of make that click, everything comes together. You've got to practice.
Cool.
There's like there's YouTube videos out there for everything. Like
of course.
A few years ago, I stumbled across this guy who's like in South Africa, and all he does is record himself playing drums to popular like rock songs.
Oh, there's lots of that out there.
And the guy is amazing at it.
Yeah. And he's just sitting there, and that's all he does is YouTube.
And he's got this just ginormous drum kit in front of him. It's just like, holy crap. I forget his name.
Yeah, there's a guy named Cooper Drummer that does that here in the States, and he's phenomenal.
I love watching covers, like whether it be guitar covers or vocal covers and stuff like that. I love that. There's some crazy stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, he has this trick thing he does where he lights sticks on fire and plays the drums with sticks that are lit. It's crazy.
So what band was it? There, I want to say Journey. So Journey needed a new lead singer, and they found the guy that's doing it now on tour on YouTube doing vocal covers.
Wow.
I swear it was Journey.
That's
Bernie or Styx, one or the other. Either way, they found their new lead singer, who literally sounds almost as good or better than the guy who originally recorded it. It's just insane what you can find out there.
It's crazy how technology can enable you to get known like that, whereas back in the day, you always had to go through a record company no matter what.
Oh, yeah. But then, of course, you also have your problems, like Justin Bieber apparently came from YouTube, too. But, you got to take the good with the bad.
Right.
The Biebs. I think that's the first mention of the Biebs in the podcast. Thanks, Tim.
I'm glad I could do that for you guys.
Firsts.
Yeah, lots of firsts. Our first Monday night recording. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry again for that.
That's all right. Well, I think we can wrap it up. This has been, fun and enlightening, and as always. Tim, if I, run into more questions on the project I'm currently working on, I'm sure I'll be in touch.
Please do, man. I can give you more insight into your current project at whatever company that happens to be than you could want in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah,
you are a brave man.
We'll have to talk more about that offline, but
I'm here for you.
It's been a very much a learning experience. I'll say that as much. So
yeah, it will be. You're not done.
Oh, I know. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
This has been Gigacast episode 18 for Monday, July 16th. Thanks again to Tim Davis for joining us. I don't have anything scheduled as of yet for August. I'm trying to pull together a huge super panel before VMworld. We're working on that schedule. We'll see. I got a couple of trips coming up in August, so it's going to be tight. We'll figure that out, but that's the next hopeful goal here, is where we can talk to a bunch of different people from VMware that are going to VMworld, and we'll figure out that hopefully in the coming weeks. Again, Tim is at ALDTD on Twitter. I am at VCIXNV. Tony is at Import Car Guy. The show is at VGigacast. We'll talk to y'all later.